If I have not met you, I'm Marcy. I'm the head of community engagement at Gatheround, and I'm so thrilled that you decided to spend an hour with us today. I know you probably had a million things that you could be doing, so it means a lot to me that you chose to be here with us. And I promise, as soon as you get to know our three panelists today, it will be a great use of your time. They're all fantastic community builders. I'm really excited for them to share their expertise with you today. So, what are we talking about today? We're talking about peer networking. And why are we doing that? I think we can all pretty much say with certainty that that is a vital part of building a community, is having them get to know each other, not just your community manager. But that's really hard to do because it requires synchronous connection a lot of the time. And we're constantly fighting to be a priority on our members' calendars. Give me some reactions or like a woohoo, heck yeah, in the chat if that resonates with you and you are kind of aligned on why we're here today. Okay, I see a lot of yeses. Fantastic. So we're going to learn from our three panelists today how they've made that a priority and what's working for them. And I say this in most Gatheround community events. So if you've been here before, you are going to recognize this. We don't do fluff. So we are going to get down to like real examples of what they're doing day to day in their community. So you can take something back and try it with your community today or tomorrow, whatever that might be. So before we get into our panel, I want to do a couple quick activities to actually have you get to know each other, to do some peer networking, and also ground us in why we're here and what we're going to learn from this conversation. So first thing I want to do before we get into the peer networking is learn what kind of community you're building, so I know kind of what examples to focus on today. So let me know. Are you building community for employees at your company, customers of your company, professional networkers, so maybe not tied to a brand, just something you like to do for your industry, or just a group that you love, that you started because you have a passion for that affinity group? So let me know, and we will try our best to make sure that the things we're sharing today are applicable to you. Okay. Couple people started a group about something they love. Only one person is employees at your company. Interesting. Okay, cool. Customers or potential customers are a lot of you, and professional networkers. Amazing. We have a very nice spread here. For those of the two of you that put something else, type in the chat what that is. And I would love to know what the outlier is that I didn't cover. Also, welcome Becca and Lauren. Appreciate y'all being here. Brand community, but not customers. Gotcha. Okay, cool. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, thank y'all for sharing. Next thing we're going to do is a warm-up breakout. So we're going to meet one other person in this event. You're just going to talk about what's going on in your world, what community you're building, something that's going really well, and something that you are still figuring out. I think we can all agree that none of us have everything figured out. Not a single person on the panel, not me, although I will say our panelists are pretty darn close to perfect. So get in there, meet someone new, make a new friend, and I will see you back here in 7 minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Did you meet your new best friend? Tell me in the chat. How was that in a word for you? I mean, not everyone has to be your best friend, but we are in a room full of community builders, so I would not be shocked if we had some friends come out of this. Great, wonderful, yes, woot, yes, amazing. Serendipitous, Carrie, that's such a good word. Amazing, okay, cool. So one of the reasons that we peer network is because we all have different challenges. It makes us feel less alone when we know that other people have a similar challenge to us. And if we are able to share those, different people can raise their hand and say, hey, I've actually had experience with that. Let me help you. So what we're going to do right now is share something that we have not figured out yet. This can be about your community. It can be about your role. If you're not like a classic community manager, let me know what that is. So we're going to use our ask a question feature for this. If you've not used this before, just type in whatever you're still figuring out, click add response, and then you can add more than one thing if you want to. If you just want to add one, then just click submit after you're done typing. I'm going to start reading these as you are still submitting. Okay. Bring more people to the madness. Yes, ma'am. I totally agree. Getting people to show up is always the hardest part of our jobs. What stories to tell about Gatheround to our amazing Gatheround community? Becca, yes, Becca's our managing editor. Where to anchor the community, finding a platform that suits everyone's needs and is welcoming and diverse. Shiva, yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about some platforms today, so hopefully you'll get some inspiration ideas. Mine is how to measure the effectiveness of community events. There are so many ways. So if you have the best one out there, please message me on LinkedIn after. How to best generate topics for your community and then create the content around that. Great one, David. How to start a local community from scratch. Next step, enroll in your organization. Level of moderation needed for chats. Great one, Sue. How to create deeply engaging online events based on feedback. Still figuring out where you belong in the solutions engineering space as a remote worker. Yeah, remote work can be really tough, Matthew. Happy to talk afterward about some ways that we can help mitigate that for you. How to make it sustainable in the long term in terms of time dedication. Yeah, burnout is super real for community. How to prepare employer partners and scholars to use Gatheround for the first time. Jenny, yeah, I got you on that one. Jenny and I have worked together for a long time. Still figuring out the topic or motivation that unites and remains nonpartisan for the election year, Carrie. Yeah. How to engage people, how to find balance of engagement, maintaining momentum, programming that works for lots of different member profiles, engagement, how to help people find each other. These are so good. Give me some reactions if you heard one of these or more that you relate to, or you feel like you can reach out to someone afterwards and say, hey, let's talk about this more. I think I can help. Amazing. I'm going to share these after the panel. So if you want to reach out to folks on LinkedIn, please do. We are going to also do an ask a question at the end of this to collect everyone's LinkedIns. So don't feel like you are welcome to share your LinkedIn in the chat if you want to, but I'll also be sharing out everyone's LinkedIns after. Okay. Now it's time to bring up our panelists. So Mia, Max, and Grace, can you please join me up here and we'll get into this. We're going to talk for about 20 minutes. And just so y'all know, we will go into another breakout after to debrief what our fantastic panelists have said, and then share some of your own best practices. Amazing. Hello, welcome. Thank y'all for being here today. Super appreciate it. We're going to start with some intros. So I want to know who you are, what community you're building, and is it your full-time job, your part-time job, or just something you love to do? So Mia, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go to Grace and Max after.
It's so funny because I'm looking at everybody's names and I'm like, oh, I did mine wrong.
You're fine.
So my name is Mia Williams. I am the founder of a platform called The Colors of Her Success. It's a platform helping navigating corporate America just a little bit easier for women of color as they are trying to climb the corporate ladder. And this year, September 1, we launched our first private networking community. And so we are hosting it on Slack. But what makes the community a little bit unique is that it is cohort driven. So it is a 3-month program. So after the 3 months, they are welcome to rejoin if they want to join the next cohort, or if they feel like they've gotten what they need, they can go ahead and just fly and be great. That was really important to me because I did a beta test of this group and I noticed that there was always a 3-month drop off. Members would start to be really engaged in the beginning, and then after 3 months they would sort of dip in engagement. So that is where the 3 months came from. So
love that.
Super happy.
This is not your full-time job, right? This is
not my full-time job. Yeah, I do this on top of my full-time job.
Super impressive. Also, congrats on launching your first cohort. And Grace, what about you?
Hey everyone, I'm Grace, formerly Senior Social and Community Manager at Lattice, which is this HR tech company that's based in San Francisco. So the community that I was managing at the time is for human resources professionals all over the world. I know we have a couple of HR people in here, so kudos to those people because it's literally such a hard job. Once I started working there, I didn't know what HR people did truly at all until I started managing that community. And then I realized all of the things that they have to manage within a company, from workplace experience, benefits, total rewards, literally all the things that a company needs to run. And community is my full-time job. But when I say full-time, it's kind of literally every part of my life, because I was doing it professionally, but then also within my company, I was a community builder. I was co-lead for employee resource groups, which are communities within themselves. And then in my personal life, I feel like I'm also a community builder with friends. I'm always the person getting people together and trying to make sure that everyone's having a good time in a group setting. So
Totally.
all
This
over the
is,
place.
yeah, this is one of those industries where you don't really get into it unless it completely envelops your life. And I don't mean that in terms of like work-life balance. I mean, like, if you're a community builder at work, chances are you are also one in your personal life. Very cool. Thank you, Grace. And also, if you are in the Resources for Human Slack community, you have Grace to thank for that amazing space. So kudos, Grace. You did an amazing job building that. And Max, last but not least, tell us about you.
Hi everyone, my name is Max. I work for Square. I'm on the community team there. My year of joining a team is coming up next year, which is crazy because it just flew by. I do community full time, and I fell into this space by accident during the pandemic of being a part of a community, getting really involved there as a member, and then that leading to a part-time community manager job and opening my eyes to this whole industry. So I'm really thankful for taking that step. And that's always like my recommendation for people who are interested in joining or being a community manager is to get involved in communities, because honestly, it has led to a career for me, and it can definitely lead to careers for people. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. It's also so crazy that you just stumbled into community, because if I talk to any community manager and I'm like, oh, do you know Max Pete? They're like, of course I know Max Pete. So you've done a really good job making yourself well known from the past, few years.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all so much for being here. I'm super excited for everyone to kind of get to learn from you and hear what you've been up to. Also, Mia, you shared this wonderful example with me as we were prepping for this conversation about how peer networking is kind of like a dinner party. Do you mind resharing that just to kind of like ground us in why this is important and kind of like have a mental image?
Absolutely. So when I came into the community building space, I knew that I had been in so many communities where everybody was just sort of in it for themselves and no one was really looking to give value to someone else. So when I did my kickoff for the community a week ago, I said, imagine the Color Connect as a dinner party, right? We have provided the space, we have provided the table, and maybe a few main courses that we can munch on, but that's not enough for a dinner party. The magic of the dinner party comes from the guest. So maybe somebody is really good at cooking, so they bring the mac and cheese and the vegetables and other meals. Maybe somebody is not good at cooking at all, but they are bomb at decor, so they create the vibe and the environment of the evening. Maybe someone doesn't find their groove in either of those. Maybe they're in charge of content for the night, making sure the dinner is well captured on social. And what I'm really trying to show is that, number one, everybody plays a role, right? Everybody has part in this community and making it magical. But number two, what everybody contributes is different. There is no right or wrong way to contribute to a community. And what you have today, right here, right now, is good enough to help somebody else.
I love that. And I love that you rooted your community, your new community in that, because I think, especially with newer communities, people feel a lot of imposter syndrome of like, do I have anything to contribute? And you just kind of dispelled that myth as soon as they got in there. So yes, kudos. I love that mental image. Okay. So we're talking about peer networking. I think a lot of folks will assume that that is done synchronously, and we are going to talk a lot about synchronous peer networking today. And when I say synchronous, if that's not a word you use very often, it means like at the same time, like live in a conversation like we are right now. But a lot of you have spoken to async networking as well. So I want to start with that. So Max, you mentioned a lot of your peer networking happens async because a lot of your community is business owners. It's hard to get their time on the calendar. So what are you doing to encourage that? Or does that just kind of happen naturally in the platform you use?
Yeah, I think a part of it is just with ritual planning. So like on certain days of the week, we have questions that we pose to the community, and they know that they can jump in and answer and connect with others during those moments. So that even if they're not available at that exact time or even day, that they're like, okay, I know on Wednesdays a question is posed to the community. I want to jump in and answer, and then also connect with those who are doing the same. Similar with events too. So with like, it's hard to do with standard webinars or live events, but like with AMAs and other events that members can kind of jump in and out of as time allows. We found that works really well with networking, and then just creating opportunities to connect members together through groups. So if there's people that run a retail business or a food business, that they can connect with those in that same industry and then chat amongst each other as like time allows, versus having a standard like you have to be here to connect. I think just those little things have slowly over time have been helping.
Love that. Yeah, it's like a different kind of inclusion to make sure that people can access the community on their own time. And do you kind of manually do those rituals every day, or do you have tools that help you do that?
We manually do them, but we have it set up in a way that like we plan far in advance. So like it doesn't take up as much time as people think. But yeah, I would say like most of the stuff that we do is just manual in the community.
Nice. Okay, cool. And Grace, you built a database that kind of captures everything that people share asynchronously in your Slack group. Can you tell us how you built that, what you used, and how you keep up with it? Because I imagine that's a lot of different things to pull from Slack.
Yeah, and first I just want to +1 on Max's ritual planning, because that's also something that I did in my community, where had a set question every Tuesday that was HR related for the community to answer. But then again, remembering that it's a community, sometimes I would throw in a fun question like, what are your plans this summer? Or like, show what your Christmas setup looks like. So you just want to inject those planned questions in your community so that they know what to expect. And then if someone doesn't want to answer a question that day, or they just want to like kill some time from doing work, they know exactly where they can go if they want to participate in something that's already happening. But for the database, we are on a free Slack, which, as everyone knows, has limitations. And after having this community, I think for 6 or 7 years at this point, there's a lot of information that is lost to the Slack archives forever. And so one of the things that my community members was telling me is that there's so much good information, I can't find it anymore because Slack deleted it all. So is there any way that we can preserve it so that we're not answering the same questions over and over, and that I'm not losing documents that people are sharing that I want to use a year from now? And again, because it was a community effort, I wanted to figure out a way for people to participate where it wasn't just me updating it every single time and keeping it alive, because as a community builder, you have 5 other things that you're in charge of, and that is only a portion of what you're doing. And so back then, this was maybe 3 years ago, out of all the tools that I was looking at, I ended up using Notion. And then I had also started my ambassador program at that time. And so the ambassadors were helping me moderate Slack. And so part of their responsibilities, if they had time, was then to also help me manage the database. I see that we have a couple Notion lovers in here, which is great. And so we built out the database so that it aligned with how our Slack community was organized. So there's channels for different HR topics. And so there's different pages within the database under those topics as well. And then back then we had this tool called Dots, which had a function called floppy disk, where you could save Slack threads directly to a Notion table and then move those threads into the appropriate pages where you wanted that information to be public. And then we also had databases for documents that I was literally saving from Slack with permission from the community member that shared it into Google Drive to then link to from Notion. So it's just this like living, breathing documentation database that anyone can access, even if they're not in Slack. But then if they want to take the conversation further with people who share the information, they do have to be a member to talk to them in Slack. So there's that like connectedness where the CTA kind of is, if you want more, join the community, but here's this like snippet of what you're getting from all the knowledge that is being shared by our members. And then again, like could not manage it without the ambassadors, because they constantly are giving tips on, I think it should be organized this way. I think the table should be updated with these tags. Like with their knowledge, they're really creating this database that is useful to that audience. Because again, I'm the community manager, I'm not the HR manager. So I have very limited ideas of what things are actually most important to people.
I love it. I feel like we all want like a write up of exactly how you built that afterwards.
Yeah, and the thing is today too, like I know AI is the hot topic, but there's a lot more tools out there other than Notion that you can use now that are much easier. Like Tight Knit, for example, is something that I've seen that automatically saves information from Slack into more of this like forum like database. So there's a lot more tools out there than what was available to me 4 years ago for people to look into.
I love that. And speaking of AI, I'm very grateful. We're beta testing an AI summary right now, and I have it turned on for this, so we get a summary of everything that everyone's saying. And I'm so glad because I'm not taking notes right now. Mia, you also use Slack rituals, and you have a really special one on Mondays. Can you tell us more about that and why that has kind of like created a safe space to start the week?
Yeah. So on Mondays, I will do like a reflection, something that has been on my mind or on my heart that I feel like maybe if I share this with somebody else, it will be helpful. And so last Monday's prompt, for example, or last Monday's reflection was just on pressure and just how much pressure we put on ourselves in the workplace and just in life. The example I used was that I was going to a wedding the upcoming weekend, which was this past weekend. And one of my friends asked me if I wanted to get my makeup done. And I'm like, absolutely not, because I have paid for a ticket to come to this wedding. I have paid for my dress, my hair, my nails. Like, I don't need to do that. And it's like, why do we put so much pressure on ourselves to show up and spend all of this time, money, and energy for what and for who? And so that was that prompt for people to be open and vulnerable about like, where are the areas in your life that you are putting pressure on yourself unnecessarily, right? Like where you don't have to, and you can release it. And so people were like, this is right on time. And then people were sharing stories about areas in their lives where they can release the pressure. And then I had a moment where like they had to remind me to release the pressure because I threw an event and like everything was going wrong technically. So it was a moment for like vulnerability. And that is what I keep doing every Monday, just to make sure like we're level setting. And even though I am the leader of this community, I still have things that I'm learning. So I love to just share what's going on. And I think the community lead having space to share thoughts and reflections helps the members feel open to do the same, so that it doesn't have to just be me all the time.
Yes, totally. You're creating that vulnerability for yourself so that they feel like they can be vulnerable in the same way. I love that. Okay, so let's talk about synchronous peer networking now. So kind of flip side of the coin. Mia, I'm going to start with you on this one. So you've had a lot of success so far with co-working sessions as well as kind of some like more casual hangouts. Can you describe like how you structure each of those? And then I'm also going to combine it with the next question, which is like any tools you use to facilitate your synchronous community.
Yeah, so our co-working sessions have become extremely popular, and they're very simple, right? I use Zoom, and it is just, we come on the call together and we build out 1 hour just to,
I think we had a roomy moment. Yeah.
I'm saying I'm visiting my mom for the weekend. We're like,
oh, amazing. Hey, Mom.
But I use the Zoom to block out 1 hour where we move the needle on our goals. So some people are applying to jobs, some people are working on their side hustles, and we share what we're working on at the top of the call. Like we'll share our screen, like somebody will share, here's my LinkedIn profile right now, and here's what I plan, the changes I plan to make. And then we'll work for 1 hour silently, and then we'll come back and we'll all show the progress. So it's accountability, it is productivity, and then it's also a chance for us to learn what everybody else is working on and where we can support. Like, oh, here's the banner for LinkedIn that I used, or here's what helped me when I was working on my LinkedIn. So it just allows the space for productivity. And again, super simple, done on Zoom.
Love it. And what about your more cash hangouts? That
Yeah.
has been
So
like a personal get to know you, right?
yeah, so we've done the Gatheround breakout sessions. So we did a member meet and greet where we did it on Gatheround, and we had 3 breakout sessions where each session had questions that got deeper. So level 1 was break the ice, level 2 was now we're talking, and level 3 was okay, think deeper. So level 1 is just like, what music are you listening to right now, and what's bringing you joy? What's something you're proud of? Level 2 is like, what's making you stay at your current job right now? And then level 3 is like, if you think back to your childhood self, what's something you admire about her? So things that help you tell the story of your life, but also in ways that like aren't too deep, but just enough to like get people to break that ice and have that human to human connection.
I love it. And I like how you layered your breakouts from like really light to a little more serious to kind of like ease people into that experience.
Yeah. And it was like you come back and we reflect. So we talk about like what stood out in your session. And what I loved is seeing people come back from the breakout smiling because their conversation was just flowing so much. And I'll give one more example of a gathering that we did, and it was curated around a moment. So I know that my community loves Issa Rae. Like we love all things Insecure. We just love her. And she launched a Prosecco. So we did a Prosecco tasting where everybody got the Prosecco. We were on Zoom. We tried it together and then just debriefed from our week. So it was really simple, but also using a moment to create connection.
That's so cool. I love that. I want to go to that. Okay. Max, you mentioned that you have a mentorship program to connect the Square community. So what does that involve? How did you set that up?
So I won't take credit for this because my coworker is actually the one that's like running this one. But essentially, we connect seasoned sellers, so people who have been in the business for a long time, to other members who've just launched their business, have questions. They might need help with like how to run marketing or open up a second location or any growing pains that businesses have, and then create a mentorship program around that to like connect those members together to allow them to share resources, ideas, and to really network and grow within the community, because I feel like we have such a cool range of members who have been in business for such a long time, 15, 20 years, and members who are just starting, that it's like really cool to like bridge that gap a bit. And something I was trying to do at my previous job, where I worked at an education startup, where we were trying to do the same thing. So members who have been in design or been a developer for a long time, and members who are just taking those courses now, how can we kind of help bridge that gap? How can we give them extra projects to work on, maybe resume reviews, things like that, to really like show like, hey, like you can really grow and develop these relationships within the community, and we have the resources to build that.
Love it. And then Grace, you mentioned that I think after COVID, but started during COVID, a lot of your community members were kind of taking initiative to do some synchronous like small group meetups. Tell us about that and how you empowered them to kind of like take the reins on that.
Yeah, so when I first started at Lattice, this was January 2020, and then the world shut down March 2020. And the silver lining for me was that the community I was managing were kind of the people in the front line at the workplace trying to figure out what exactly they were going to do with all of their employees that now had to go remote, these empty offices that they're like paying the lease for, just like all these different things that they never had to deal with before. So that year was really where I think I saw our community numbers like double in size, because it was clear people were really seeking help and trying to figure their stuff out at work. And so one of the things that happened during that time, because there were just so many questions that popped up around what do we do with X, Y, and Z, people wanted to get together and just talk it through versus just typing in Slack and having stream of consciousness thoughts and freakouts with people. They just wanted to get together and share their ideas. And so I think back then we branded it as like working sessions, but then taking feedback from the community into account as always, they were like, I wouldn't really consider this a working session. It's kind of more of a brain dump. So like maybe we'd be more clear about that. And so we rebranded it into virtual huddles. Like literally, let's just get together, share our thoughts, talk everything through, and just like learn from each other. And the beauty of it is that they were all community led. So I would find people from the community, whether it be an ambassador or someone who is really outspoken about a certain topic, and work with them on getting together a Zoom registration and an agenda for the types of questions that we wanted members to get together and figure out. And then we would have breakout rooms depending on the size of the group. And people would just share everything. And we made sure that they were safe spaces just so that they could do that, because HR has to deal with a lot of sensitive topics, especially when things like long COVID came up and like the legal ramifications of making people return to office. There's just a lot of things that they want to talk about when it comes to their companies that they're probably not supposed to share, but they have to because they need someone to talk it through with. So we recorded the virtual huddles just so that we could create wrap up key takeaway articles after the fact with content that was approved by our members that was okay to share publicly. But other than that, those spaces were completely private. We went through the registration list to make sure that it was HR people only. And we always made sure that people knew the code of conduct before they came in so that they knew how they were supposed to interact with each other and what was okay and not okay. And so I think that really helped set the stage for people to freely share with each other all the things that they were struggling through with work. Some people were even starting to go into like their personal lives, which I think also really helps because that's what a community is. You need to be able to talk about these things with people to build that relationship with each other. But people really got so much help from these virtual huddles to bring back best practices that people were doing at their companies into their own companies. And because they were so successful during that year of COVID, we kept doing them after. And instead of focusing on things like vaccine policies or like return to office strategy, we moved on to virtual huddles around like, how do you run performance reviews at your company? How do you do engagement surveys? So it really grew from that starting point into something that our community members still really enjoy and get something out of, because it's so different talking face to face versus talking in Slack.
Yeah, love it. Okay, I'm admittedly running way over time, so we're going to make this last question a speed round. But I want to get to it because I think it's a really important question. So technology can only take us so far, right? Like we all use different tools according to what our community needs and what fits our schedules and all that. But I think the reason every community has a community manager is because you add that human element that kind of makes your members feel comfortable, like we've talked about a lot today. So maybe like 30 to 45 seconds, what's one thing you do for your community that you think like makes all the difference in having them come together and actually like sharing and contributing with each other? And we'll start with Grace and then go to Max and Mia.
Yeah, so I think again for me, it's making sure that I'm creating a safe space for people. So like within our community, we had a no selling rule that we were very strict about. We did not allow vendors within the community, so it's application only, and you had to be an HR person. And we really emphasized anytime anyone was kind of borderline crossing that you were in the community to share your knowledge, tips, and best practices, not to get business for yourself, not to solicit leads or, any of that. And then I think another thing that we made really clear to members is that you have a unique experience. Don't just copy and paste what someone is telling you into like your own work. Take the tips that they're giving you from their company, whether it's like a 30-person startup or a 300-person company, and just take what can actually apply to your situation and adapt it to what you need to do to make it work. I think what people in a community need to understand is like diversity of thought is super important. So again, like don't copy and paste, use that information to create something that works best for you.
Perfect. Max, what about you?
I would say thanking members for their contribution. So if members really like vocal to like send them a DM or a message to be like, hey, like thank you so much for spending the time. Just really appreciate your time and energy. Like that works. Like members want to feel recognized and loved. And also encouraging members too, the ones that might not be super vocal or the ones that might be on the fence, but you know that they can be helpful and supportive, but they're just like not willing to, or they don't feel comfortable yet to jump in, to kind of give them that little nudge. So maybe tagging them in a post or sharing that post with them directly, like, hey, like, I feel like you'd have a great answer for this if you have time to jump in.
I love that. I love that. Kind of like letting them know you see why they're special and why you want them to contribute. That's awesome. Mia, last but not least.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
What is your kind of like superpower as a community manager? Like, what's one thing you do to help facilitate people wanting to contribute?
I feel like I lead with vulnerability. I lead with the level of vulnerability I would want members to have, because it is a safe space. Grace mentioned that earlier, and it's like you have to feel like this safest space. I mean, the space is safe. And one of the ways that we started that from the beginning is that our membership is private. You have to be accepted into it. You have to apply into it. And one of the biggest questions we ask in the application is just like, what is your why? Why do you want to be here? And it's not based off of popularity, your degree, how much money you have or make. It's really just about what is your intention for this space? And then what do you hope to give? So people come in, they're sort of primed to come in and lead with vulnerability, but also like use this space as a resource to get what you need. I tell people that all the time, like get what you need. You paid for this community, use it and show up to the events that we have in person. Our community lives both virtually and in real life. So I tell them to take full advantage.
I love it. Awesome. Thank y'all so much. We are going to hop into a 5-minute one-on-one breakout. So we're going to debrief a little bit about this panel, how it relates to your specific community, and then also anything that you didn't hear that you want to contribute to the person that you're meeting. And we will also have a chance to share some of those tips when we come back. So you're going to meet another person, make a new best friend, and I will see you in 5 minutes. We were just jamming out to Kiss by a Rose while you're in your breakout. If you have not watched that music video, I highly recommend. We watch it as a team once in a while and it's hilarious. Okay, I hope that was an awesome breakout. We're going to do some group sharing. So if you have a tip from your community that you want to share with the group, please do. And if you've not used group share before, this is going to bring you up one by one just for 30 seconds each. So it's a speed round. And I want to hear your best peer networking practice. And again, it's only 30 seconds, so super quick, but excited to hear from y'all. And we got Jenny up first. Jenny, I haven't seen you in a while. Hi.
Hello. I have missed the infamous Gatheround fade out. But no, excited to be here. I think one of the things, I'm really new in my role. I'm the manager of employer and alumni industry engagement at College Track. And I'm really excited from just hearing the panelists talk today about thinking about our young professionals board, alums that are working across industries and how we can empower them to run some of these community groups.
Oh, that's such a good one. I love that. David is up next.
I'm going to say, I think it's important to invest in your local community. And while it's good to have like virtual, I think that there's an element that's missing. Or if you could tie in a fit like an in-person with the virtual, I think it will make it more effective with what you're trying to accomplish of your purpose.
Totally. Yeah, I think a mix is always the ideal state, right? Also stay tuned for some updates about that from us. And we got Lauren, last but not least. Hi.
Hey. So I host online networking events, connecting with people on LinkedIn, and peer networking. I mean, I'm just hosting online networking events, so I think that could be interesting. It doesn't have to be like co-working sessions, could just be focused on getting to know people.
Love it. Yes. Lauren is also newish to starting her community. And she's been doing an amazing job so far. Thank y'all so much. If anyone wants to join last minute, feel free to press join activity above my head. If not, we will end by taking a picture all together today so we can remember this moment forever. And then I will send you into the rest of your day. Okay, Max, Mia, Grace, thank you all so much for being here today. This beautiful photo is going to develop soon, and we can save it forever and ever. I'll share it in my follow-up email too. Seriously though, thank you all so much for being here today and sharing your expertise with us. Yeah, I was about to say, give them some reactions to thank them, but y'all are already doing that. Okay, very last thing I'm going to do today. And if you need to run, I totally get it. But I always take feedback after every single community event because I really care what y'all think and making sure that I'm using your time really well. So one question, tell me from terrible to great, how was this for you today? And then after you respond, you'll also have an open text box. So if you want to leave me a note about your favorite thing, your least favorite thing, what you want more or less of, please do that. It genuinely helps me do my job better. So I appreciate you for taking time to do that. Okay, I'm going to play us out with a music video. Thank you so much for being here, panelists and attendees. I know community work is a thankless job, so if no one's told you thank you today, I'm saying it too. I appreciate y'all very much.